Welcome to Conversations with the Unseen. My name is Andy.
And my name is Laura. And in December 2019, we began an amazing and completely unexpected journey, conversing with beings from the unseen world, which has totally transformed our lives.
And here we are, after hundreds and hundreds of hours of conversations, doing what our non-physical friends have been encouraging us to do, sharing their message with others who may be interested.
So let's dive in.
Hello, dear friends.
Oh, hello, Mexicans. Mexicans, what would you share with us as you perceive the energy in this moment?
As we perceive the energy, it would seem that there is much reflecting on past events and some focusing on what the human self would call the future, the experiences yet to come into physical form for each. And this is perhaps a perfect opportunity to share a perspective from the unseen around intentions and how the human perspective is distorted, believing that the human self can control the events of its life, and to do so at the level of form. Many would speak of goals or objectives, having something to aim for, something to plan, perhaps a trip or some kind of career advancement. And these are possible for some to work hard towards, and whether these bring the satisfaction or fulfillment that the human self is seeking is another matter. From the perspective of the unseen, we would focus on the energy. And the energy is what creates the form. And rather than trying to control, which requires what the human self would call work, we would say by creating in the energy, it is possible to attract into one's experience what it desires, what the human self desires. And this is not what many are used to doing, because it requires engaging with a dimension that cannot be perceived through the senses. And so the human self focuses on the physical, which it can perceive. The physical is the result of the energy, which is why for many the feeling that the human self is seeking from some kind of physical experience often does not fulfill, because the energy is not in alignment. And often the physical creation that has been brought about through effort or control will not last. And events return to being in alignment with the energy. And so rather than goals or objectives, to have an intention and to direct that intention towards the unseen, the non-physical, will be to call to the human self an experience that will be in alignment with that energy, whatever form that takes. And it is not possible for the human self to dictate or control the form. rather to trust that what comes will bring the fulfillment or the feelings that the human self is seeking. So to have an intention for that to be the experience that the human self desires, how does the human self want to feel? And to stay focused on that energetic creation, and to allow that to show up in form, in whatever way it does. And so, what is it that the human self desires? How does it want to feel? What would be satisfying for the human self? Focus on that. You have heard us speak of the field, and this is what the human self is engaging with when there is an intention and an energetic alignment. So to put that out to the field and to then welcome what comes as a result of that energetic creation.
We've had many conversations about this, Mexicans, about how this human self has tried to control events, how this human self has worked hard, and how this human self has got what it thought it wanted, only for it not to feel how it wanted. I guess it's part of the upside down nature of this reality. We're programmed to believe that to get something or to have something, we need to make it happen, that it's down to us. And I'm chuckling because anyone who has listened to this podcast at any point will know that this human character also has a very robust ego. And so there is a beautiful simplicity in what you're saying, and yet it's such a practice creating in the energy, letting go of the form and allowing what shows up to show up. The human self with its ideas of timescales, of how it should show up, what it should look like, why it's not showing up.
It may be helpful for those who are not familiar with this principle to give examples of what an energetic intention could be like, what it could sound like as a word or an energy, a feeling. And so, for example, if one is in a situation where there have been challenges with money, for example, many will set themselves goals or objectives around money and perhaps a promotion or an increase in business, which is the form. The energy to engage with would be that of abundance. And that is sufficiently specific as an energy form, but it does not limit the physical form. Abundance, as well as being an experience, is also a feeling. And so rather than focus on an increase in one's income, focusing on the energy of abundance will not only bring greater physical abundance in whatever form that comes, It will affect how life feels, how one is experiencing that abundance. We hope this is a useful example.
It is really useful. What comes to mind is a conversation I had with someone many years ago, and they said to me, there's an infinite amount of ways that money and wealth can come to you. And my reply was, well, I can think of about 7, which showed just how much the human self was focused on the form.
So to focus on the energy leaves it to the universe, all that is, with its infinite creativity and infinite number of ways in which energy can show up in form.
What that brings to mind is where we are currently living. There was definitely an intention, and it came to us in the most surprising and delightful way. And it has been a gift that has continued to surprise and delight and expand in all sorts of delicious ways, way beyond what we could have known at the point where we chose it. And the contrast when another space was chosen to live in and the human self thought it knew and had an idea, and the creation felt so completely different for the human self. It wasn't as enjoyable. It seemed like disaster followed disaster. And that for me was a real example of the difference between the human self trying to create in the physical and looking to the energy, creating it in the energy and allowing the unseen to bring what it brings.
And to create one's experience in the world of form in this way is counterintuitive. It is opposite to many of the programs that the human self is believing to be true about forcing and putting in effort, and things don't come easily. You have to work for them. And when aligning with those stories, those beliefs, which are energies, those are intentions. This is how I intend life to be. And this is an example of how powerful intentions are. What you believe, you call to yourself. And that being the case, you have the option to call to yourself something else if what you are attracting energetically in your present circumstances is not what you want. You have the ability to align with a different energy. And what will then follow will be that energy will show up in your physical experience.
So what I'm hearing you say is that intentions are happening anyway. We are all intending things all the time. What you're inviting us to do is to create the intentions consciously rather than them be unconscious and aligned with the program.
Exactly so. The world of form is a mirror. And what it is mirroring is the energy, both on an individual level and a collective level. So each human expression is having its experience, and collectively humanity is having its experience also.
You know, what occurs to me, Mexicans, is, and we do this on an individual and on a collective level, is that when something that the human self would say is good occurs, it will say, I did that. And when something occurs that the human self would judge as bad, it says, why is that happening to me? Like it had nothing to do with it. I know for this human self, that was tough to think or to have that awareness that I was creating all of it.
This is the nature of how the experience of being human in a physical realm has been set up. In fact, this is the nature of the universe. That everything begins with energy. Everything is energy. And therefore, energy behaves in familiar ways. Energy flows. There is nothing in the universe that remains the same. Everything is in a state of change, flowing from one form to the next. Even solid objects, as it would seem from a human perspective, these are energy. They are not as solid as they seem, and they are certainly not staying as they are for all of eternity. And so they are changing also. So energy is ever changing, ever flowing at different rates and in different ways. Energies blend with each other to then create something else. By the blending of those energies, something else is formed. And there are examples all around as the human self experiences the world of form. This process of flowing, blending and creating is abundant everywhere. And the human being, the human self, the human character is energy and is subject to those same characteristics.
Something that you have said to me many times, which I really love, is the apparent physical world is much more malleable than the human self would believe it to be.
There is nothing fixed or permanent about any aspect of the physical realm or indeed the universe.
And bringing that all the way back round to intentions, what's coming into the mind is intentions are something to be played with. I know that when this human self is really light touch and light-hearted about intentions, with no attachment or resistance, it can feel magical what can unfold. And when the human self has attachment or resistance or gets very serious about it, then actually that is an energy that is also being transmitted to the field. There's an intention there and that energy.
Yes. And this is true as a principle for every human. What is variable is the awareness of this. And so as you speak of the judgment that a human can have of an event, something that occurs, it could be that there is something that is welcomed by the human self, something pleasant or enjoyable that it would call good, something unwelcome that it would call bad. And these are all energetic creations. Everything is an experience that one has, at some level, called unto itself.
So as we bring this conversation to a close, I'm wondering, is there anything else that you would share with us on the topic of intentions?
We would encourage those listening to this message to be clear about those intentions, what experiences it would like to call unto itself, and also to be vigilant around the activity of the human mind. And we would call this interference. So when there is an intention, this goes out to the field and is impacting the experience in the physical. And the interference would be the human mind, the human self, unintentionally blocking that intention showing up in the physical experience. Examples would be a perspective of, it's not happening, or why is this taking so long?
Are you using examples from my world, Mexicans?
And so this is an important awareness to have. It is very straightforward to have an intention and for this to be picked up, for it to impact the field, and for then that energy to show up in physical form, except that sometimes there is interference. And so be aware of the activity of the human mind, and perhaps any thoughts of wanting to get involved, try to control what is happening, can just be replaced with a different thought, which could be, it's coming, it's on its way, it's happening. It is my intention. Stay focused and aligned with the intention, and not what is happening, what seems to be happening in the physical.
Thank you, Mexicans. Thank you for sharing your perspective with us.
And we appreciate the opportunity to do so. And we flow love to you and to those who may be listening to these words.
Most gratefully received, Mexicans.
Until next time.
Until next time.
You've been listening to Conversations with the Unseen.
If you'd like to know when there's a new conversation available, then remember to subscribe and also to share it with others.
If you'd like to have a written transcript of each conversation, then you'll find this on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
And if you have a question you'd like us to ask on your behalf, or if you would like to join the mailing list, then you can also do that on the website conversationswiththeunseen.com.
Until next time.